Hi, today I'm going to talk briefly about backup, archive, and disaster recovery and how to achieve better outcomes with StorageX and data dynamics. We talk about backup most of the time. What we think about is how do I keep my data safe? But a lot of times we have backups that we have backups of backups of backups on. In some cases, there are 40,000 copies of the same file. So how do you reduce backup workloads by 60%? You can do this through analytics. With archive, you have the capability to move data off of the primary storage onto either object storage or to move it file to file if you'd like. Disaster recovery can be achieved through asynchronous replication for file to file, file to object, or object to object. So quick outline of what we're going to talk about, a quick overview of the architecture and how we achieve this infrastructure optimization for either backup, archive, or disaster recovery using all of the replication methods that we've talked about. When we talk about the scale-out architecture, typically what you would do is you would deploy StorageX into Azure, and you would deploy a UDE to move files in between objects and files in Azure. You can also deploy our UDEs, or Universal Data Engines, into sites that are off-site of Azure and move data between those sites or between Azure and your on-prem sites. The nice thing about this is you can deploy as many UDEs as you need to get the job done as fast as you need. Now, when we talk about doing analytics, one of the first things we do is we set up a discovery. In that discovery, what we do is we go out and scan the file directories and find all of the files. The next thing we do is we do an analysis. And in this particular case, in my analysis, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for files that have a creation date of older than 5, last modified of 4, last access time 3, and a file extension of DMP. When I put that in there and I run that, after I've done the discovery, then I can have all of the information relative to that specific query come up, and I know whether or not this is a candidate. When I'm done with this, I can apply this. So I can see that 89% of the storage is going to be saved by writing these files out to an archive. These files have not been accessed in 6 to 7 years. They have not been modified in 6 to 7 years. And they were created 6 to 7 years ago also. So obviously some very old files. And we know they're all DMPs, right? So the size of these files are 1 to 10 megabytes. And then who owns them? Right now it's administrators. So there is a set of administrators. These files could have been moved around, but essentially that means really nobody is owning them and nobody is touching them. And yet we're backing them up on a regular basis. So the idea here is to create this query and then apply that to an archive and then have everything move out of that archive and move off of that particular file system. Now, what can you do with some of the actions in StorageX in addition to archive? Well, the first one is migrate. If you know that you want to migrate data, you can just straight out migrate it. We're faster than anybody and scale better than anybody as far as moving Azure, files into Azure. Next, you can use tiering. So you can use analysis to figure out what shares you want to move and then move those shares into Azure and save money that way. You can also use replicate and sync. So in the case where you're going to do that, that might be a disaster recovery solution. It also might be a backup solution or a cheap backup solution to get the data away from the primary storage onto a cheaper set of storage in Azure. You can also use replicate and sync to do file to object and then object to object. So in that particular case, whatever is on your on-prem storage, you can replicate also. And then finally, archive. An archive is where you do an analysis like I showed before, and you wind up finding the files that you want to archive, writing them out to Azure Blob, and then deleting them from the source so they get off of your backup schedule. You save space, you save money, and you generally just optimize your whole environment. So a quick summary. StorageX allows you to make consistent automated policy-based data moves. The infrastructure can be expanded as needed by expanding those UDEs I talked about. You can do analysis by file or by share, and you can move data from on-premise to Azure, from NAS file to file, from NAS share to share, from NAS file to object, and finally object to object also. If you'd like to contact us, you can contact us at sales@datdyne.com. Thanks.